So, hello everybody. My name is Natalie Abouche. I am NatNat, your doula. I am a pregnancy, birth, and postnatal doula. I'm also a nanny because obviously I'm not at births every single day, and I love being with kids, so I look after people's kiddies as well. I'm based over in Swindon, in Wiltshire, which is the southwest of England, and I look after families. I support families all the way down, really, from the Midlands, Wales, all the way through Wiltshire, Oxfordshire, all the way down into London and surrounding areas around London. I have invited Emma O'Leary to come and have a chat with me today, and this is the first time I'm hearing your stories. So thank you for coming to share them. The whole reason I do these, I either do Instagram lives or I do pre-recorded like this. The whole reason I do this is because I know women want to hear other people's stories. They do. When I was getting ready to support my daughter's birth, while I was training as a doula, I was listening to birth stories all day, every day, and so was she. And we found it really, really useful to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that we could both, and her partner, we could all prepare for all the different eventualities and hear other people's experiences around those things that might switch and change through labour and birth and postnatal as well. So thank you, Emma, for coming to share. So if you want to just introduce yourself and tell anyone that watches this back who you are and what you do, and then we can get hearing your stories.
Great. I'm Emma O'Leary. I'm the owner of Olibella Hypnobirthing. And Olibella is a combination of my children's names, Oliver and Isabella.
Nice.
That's where the name came from, because they are very much the reason why I do what I do. I am a hypnobirthing teacher and passionate about birth education and birth preparation. I love any opportunity to talk about birth. Probably my friends are sick of hearing about me talking about birth, but any opportunity to talk about it, I will take. And I just love being able to support women through what is a very messy, very broken maternity system, where they can very easily get lost and feel pushed along, and just able to help them find their voice again and feel confident and calm about going into their own birth experience. So that's kind of what I do. I've been doing it for about a year. I trained at the beginning of last year. So I've been helping people for just under a year now. I took a slight break from it from September last year, just to protect my own mental health, because I do have another job as well, and obviously have 2 children. So I just took a short break from it, and now I'm ready to get back into it this year. I've already had one couple I've worked with at the beginning of January who are due their baby anytime now. That was an intense short course because she hadn't thought about preparation up until that point, but that was lovely. So I'm waiting to hear from them, and I'm ready for the rest of the year to help lots of other lovely couples through their journey.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. I love hypnobirthing. I didn't do any of it with my 2 children. With my first, nearly 28 years ago, I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was being hypnotized. Really, that's the only kind of thought I had in my mind. Didn't think about it again for obviously 19 years. And then when I was pregnant with Sophia in 2017, I was hearing more talk about hypnobirthing, but there wasn't as much of it like on social media. I wasn't really like an Instagram person back then. I was kind of on your Facebooks, and it wasn't really spoken about on there. I wish I'd known more. I would have jumped at the chance to do hypnobirthing courses or sessions with someone to help me through my labour. Because what I've learned now, obviously since having her, is certain hypnobirthing tools that I will use now. And I'm not even having a baby. And I don't plan to have babies, but I use them now, like certain breath work and mind work, I guess. So yeah, I love it. So you had your 2 children, and so is that what led you then into this work?
So I'll go back and talk about my first baby. So I got pregnant in 2022 with my first baby, and up until the point I got pregnant, I'd really never given much thought at all to pregnancy and labour and birth. Children had never really been on my agenda until I got married to my husband, and then we started talking about it. So I'd never really gave much thought to it. and we were very lucky. We fell pregnant quite quickly. And then suddenly I was faced with this 9 months of pregnancy and the thought of giving birth at the end of it, having to actually think about it. So I started looking at everything, started reading everything, started going online and searching, and then asked my friend who had just had her first baby the year before if she had any tips or hints. And her first words were, do hypnobirthing. She said, I know it sounds
Wonderful.
airy-fairy and it sounds like it's going to be rubbish, but trust me, try it. So, and she's my best friend. I've known her since I was 14, so I trusted her, and I went looking into that. And I did a course with, I'm not going to name them, but a very well-known course that I did the digital version of. And it was low cost and it felt really good value. And it was basically a pre-recorded, downloadable videos that you watch at your leisure, some pre-recorded guided relaxation, and some resources that you could access. And it felt great. And I very much got into it and enjoyed the knowledge. And I found it really, really interesting and really useful, and really started to understand how my body worked, which is something I'd never thought about before. And all was going great. I had a fairly straightforward pregnancy. I was low risk and I was being seen at the community midwife. And yeah, everything was feeling good. And I was felt like, things are going to go well. I'm confident about this. Nothing's going to get in my way. And then at 28 weeks, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, completely unexpected. I agreed to take the test because my BMI was 30 and they gave me the choice of you can have it or you can't, or you don't have it. It's up to you. You're on the cusp. So I thought, well, I'll have it because if I did have it, I'd want to know and manage it rather than it be left unchecked. Wasn't expecting to have it at all. Didn't even cross my mind. And then got the phone call to tell me that I had it. And at that point, everything changed in my birth journey. And what I really struggled with was I went back to the hypnobirthing course that I'd done, and there was nothing really to help me navigate that side of it. So once I had a label and had a different path to navigate, the course that I'd purchased didn't really give me any support on that. It was very much tailored towards straightforward, low risk, natural births with no intervention. So I really struggled at that point and really started to lose confidence in everything. Found myself being put under consultant care, having to go to the hospital every other week for checks, and having to finger prick test 4 times a day. And it all just became very, very stressful. I had nowhere to turn. And a first time baby, and the hospital very much treated me like a first time mum. I didn't know anything and they basically knew best. And I remember being in the first consultant meeting. So I was 28 weeks pregnant, 29 weeks pregnant, sat in the first consultant meeting. And the first thing she said to me was, okay, so we'll likely induce you at 38 weeks. And I was just devastated. Yeah, straight away, without any, they hadn't even looked at I hadn't even tested or anything yet. Literally, I'd been diagnosed
so early,
and that was her first words.
Like, that's 10 weeks away. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there was no thought about what could change or what I could do to manage it. It was a expectation that that's what they would do. And I remember saying to her, well, what does that mean then? Like, what does that change mean? And she was like, well, basically, you'll have to give birth on labour ward. You'll come into the hospital beforehand. You'll be monitored. You may have to go on a drip. And like all these things were just running through my head. Like, well, that completely puts paid to anything I wanted to do. My water birth's gone. My calm, relaxed environment's gone. Everything just seemed to be taken away from me in that one conversation.
Can I just
very final.
Can I just say, actually, I'm quite impressed that they actually told you that it would be changing your plans, because quite often I hear people, I'm sure you do as well, when they speak about induction and they have no idea that will completely change their birth plan. They won't.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, at least they were honest with me at that point and said, being honest, but it's not true, is it? But that's what the first thing they said to me was, this is what will happen now. So, I suppose looking back, a lot of women don't get told that. They kind of get carried along thinking everything will still be fine. It'll just be started for me. So, they were quite honest about that. but yeah, everything sort of felt like it was taken away from me in that moment, and it all felt very final. It never felt like it was a conversation. It always felt very much they were telling me.
Mm.
So I went away from that, and I went and researched gestational diabetes in my own. I went and found my own research on it and looked it all up. And 2 weeks later, when I was back at the clinic, I took all the stuff that I'd researched and I took it to them, and I was like, "Look, I've looked at all this, and if I can manage this without needing medication, insulin, and I keep the numbers under control, I think I can still have the natural birth that I want."
Mm.
And the consultant was like, "Well, you could try, but I think we'd still like to induce you at 38 weeks just in case."
We'll just
Okay.
disregard what you just said about
So
being natural then.
just in case. Um, so I took a, and she also said to me, the research that you've done is not medical research, though. It's not scientific. It's just that's just somebody who's had it, who's put that together.
Oh, wow.
So that was a bit of a like, and to be fair, the research that I went to, the website that I used was a mum who had had gestational diabetes 3 times, but she had done a lot of research, and it wasn't just her opinion. But yeah, it was very much shut down, as in the research you've done is worthless. So
Mm.
yeah, we're not really going to
But
listen.
that is actual evidence, though,
So
isn't it? Someone did it. They managed
yeah,
it. They had the birth they wanted. Well,
yeah,
I'm assuming from what
exactly.
you're saying. So that is
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
evidence that it can happen. What's to say it can't happen for you?
Exactly. That was the proof for me that it can happen that way.
Yeah.
And that was what all I wanted was a discussion about it being a possibility, but it was just pretty much shut down. They kind of, yeah, humoured me a little bit, but it was still in my notes that my induction was going to be booked for 38 weeks.
Mm.
So I went away and I was really strict with my diet. I managed my diabetes so strictly so that I wouldn't need any medication or insulin. And at 32 weeks, at my diabetic appointment, they insisted that I started to take metformin because some of my figures were slightly higher than they wanted them to be. Looking back now, with the knowledge that I've got, I only had 1 or 2 high readings, and I could pinpoint exactly what had caused it, so I knew not what not to do in future.
Mm.
But they sat, and I'll never forget the situation. They brought me into the doctor's room. There was 3 doctors in there. There was a diabetic doctor, there was the consultant, and there was a research doctor. And the diabetic doctor said to me, "Right, so we've looked at your readings, and you need to start taking metformin straight away." I was like, "Well, do I really need to? Can I wait a bit longer?" "No, you have to start taking it. I'm going to prescribe it now, and you'll start taking it from tomorrow, and you'll take 500 milligrams, and it'll if that doesn't work, then we'll review it in 2 weeks." And it was basically just, this is what's going to happen, and you're going to take it. And then the consultant was like, "Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's for the best. If your diabetes is unmanaged and you've got these high readings, it's really bad for the baby. The baby's getting too much sugar. Baby will end up growing too big, and then you'll be stuck." And
Mm.
all the scare tactics, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was crying because I hadn't had any time to think about it. My husband was sat next to me, going, "Well, can we at least take some time to think?" And he was like, "I really don't think you should think about it. I think this needs to happen now."
I don't think you should think about
So
it.
I
Says it all.
So I was like, "Well, okay, if that's the case, then fine. I'll do what I have to do to protect my baby." So as he's writing the prescription, and I'm still processing it all, the research doctor says, "So now that you agreed to take metformin, would you be part of our research trial? Because we're doing this research trial to find out how." And it just kind of bombarded me with it.
Oh my
And I was like,
goodness.
I don't know. I don't know I don't even know what I'm doing yet. And she was like, "Oh, I'll give you a leaflet and have a think, and then you can let me know." Literally, I went back in the waiting room. Half an hour later, she came back to me and she was like, "So what do you think? Will you do it?" So I was like, yeah, okay." So I signed the form, and she said, "Oh, you'll get an email and it'll have all the details in it." Just so overwhelmed. And I was just completely like, no idea what was going on.
Sounded
And then
like
my
sounded like they
next
wanted you
stage,
to be in it. So that's why they were pushing this. That's what it sounds like.
yeah,
Like,
that's how it felt.
let's get
Yeah.
this next lady that comes in the door on this program
Yeah.
that we're doing, or
So then
whatever
we
the
can put her
research.
on the trial for it. Yeah. That's how it felt. Yeah. Um, and my next part of my appointment at that day was a blood pressure check. So I've just been through all of this. Then they sent me in for a blood pressure check, and lo and behold, my blood pressure was high.
What a
So
surprise.
that was the next thing. That was right now your blood pressure's high, so now you're also going to have to start taking labetalol tablets, and we're going to give you one right now, and then we'll check you again in an hour and see if it's come down. So went back into the other room, took the tablet. I've been in the hospital probably 3 hours already at this point, and like pushed around different people, different appointments. So I took the labetalol, and they came back in an hour, and they tested my blood pressure in the waiting room with everybody else around me. It was still high. So she went, "Oh, okay, we'll probably give you another dose of it then." So gave me another dose and tested you again in an hour. And at that point, it was okay. So like, okay, you can go home now. Here's labetalol. Take this 4 times a day or whatever it was, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. And as I got up to leave, I went really lightheaded, really, really faint, and said to my husband, I'm going to pass out. They got me a wheelchair and scooped me into it and moved me back into Mac, checked my blood pressure, and it was really, really low. So, like, they kind of over
Oh
medicated
my
me for the
goodness.
labetalol.
Oh,
So, and I think I was about 32 weeks pregnant at this point, 32, 33, something around that. And this appointment has all happened in one appointment. So I've been told I've got to take metformin, I've got to take labetalol, I've got to come in for blood pressure checks. And all along, I can just see my birth plan just being
mm,
completely taken away from me because it's
mm,
like one thing after another. So I went home, and it took me a few days to really process all that, to take a couple of days off work because I was really emotional about it. Um, and there wasn't anyone or anything that could give me any support or answers that I could find.
mm.
Um, so I went along, continued with the pregnancy, going for my checks every 2 weeks. And at 36 weeks, my blood pressure was still high at every reading. And as it turns out, it happened in my second pregnancy as well. So it does appear that I am prone to gestational hypertension,
Okay.
but I genuinely believe that a lot of what was going on led to it happening so
Mm,
soon, and the way that I was treated. So I was being monitored, and at 36 weeks, they admitted me for overnight monitoring of the blood pressure. And at this point, I was being told every day that as soon as you hit 37 weeks, we're going to induce you because this baby has to come out. Your blood pressure is too high. The diabetes wasn't an issue anymore. That was, oh yeah, that's fine. You've got that under control now. Now it's the blood pressure. So every day from 36 weeks, they kept saying to me, as soon as you get to 37 weeks, we'll book you in for induction. And I went in on the day I was turned 37 weeks, and I was back in for my normal check. And the doctor, oh, sorry, the day before. So the day before that, I went in for a check, and my blood pressure was high. And the doctor said to me, and these were his exact words, "We have to deliver your baby in the next 24 hours, or one of you will die." They were his
oh,
exact.
oh my
Yeah, I
God.
was on my own because my husband couldn't be with me at that time because he was working.
Oh my God.
And that was his words to me. And I just was like, "Oh, okay, like if that's the case, then do it, book me in." So went and sat back in the waiting room, waited for them to find me a bed. Finally got a bed, got admitted. My husband came with my bag and everything, and we were sort of getting our heads prepared for next 24 hours and get me onto the induction suite, and just trying to get my head around it all because I was not quite 37 weeks and it was all happening so quickly.
Mm,
They kept me in that night. So that was the Tuesday night. Kept me in that night, and then no one came to see me at all through the night. And then Wednesday morning, the consultant came round and did her rounds, checked my blood pressure, and went, "Oh, I think we can send you home today." And I was like, "Well, I
really
was told
messing with
last
your head.
night so much. I was told last night that I had to be induced because my blood pressure was so high." And she was like, "Well, it's normal this morning. So your medication's obviously doing what it's meant to do. So you can go home." And this is Wednesday. She said, "But do come back tomorrow, the Thursday, and we'll do another check just to make sure." Okay, fine. Just glad to be able to go home for a day.
Mm,
So I went home and normal day, and then went back the next morning. In fact, it was afternoon. I think it was about 1 o'clock. My appointment. Went back in. My blood pressure was high again. So they moved me into Mac and started talking to me about preparing for induction. But they said it's probably going to be after the weekend, but we'd probably like to keep you in. So this is Thursday afternoon. We'd probably like to keep you in now just to monitor you, just to make sure
mm,
everything's okay. And while I was on the CTG, my baby's heart rate dipped, and it stayed dipped for quite a while. And there was that moment of panic in the room where everyone kind of looked at each other, and you could sense it. Even though they stayed calm, they were like starting to panic. So they came back up again after a couple of minutes, and they went and got the consultant, and she came in and she was like, I think, do you mind if I just examine you quickly just to see if there's something that's caused that? Because it could be that baby's engaged and you start to drop or whatever, and we just need to know. It's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. So she did the examination, and I now, genuinely looking back, believe that she did a sweep at that time, but didn't tell me she was doing a sweep. But having learned and understood a bit more now, I do believe that's what happened. So she did my examination, and she said, "Oh, you're about 2 centimeters dilated. So if we keep you in, when it comes to induction, it'll just be a case of breaking your waters. So it shouldn't take too long." So and she said that's probably why why it's dropped, because he's moved down and he's probably moved position, and none of it really made any sense. So I just went along with it because she was telling me what she was telling me. So I was admitted. Spent that afternoon on the ward. My husband stayed with me till 8 p.m., which was end of visiting hours, and then he went home. And the midwife that was on duty said to me, "Oh, I'll run you a bath," because I was like, "I've got really bad Braxton Hicks, and they keep coming and going. So I'll run you a bath. That'll help you feel better." So this is about 8 p.m. And she ran me a bath, and it was lovely and really nice. But when I got out, the pains were still happening. And I was like this. Normally at home, if I have a bath, my Braxton Hicks would stop. I would move around and they would stop, but it was continuing. So I started just keeping track of them myself through the evening. And at about 11 p.m., I text my mum and said, "I'm pretty sure these are contractions now. They're happening pretty regularly." She was like, "Well, tell the midwife. Tell them what you think." So I did, and she was like, "No, there's nothing really shown on the CTG. I don't think they're proper contractions. You're a first-time mum. You were only 2 centimeters earlier. It'll be hours before anything happens." So I was like, "All right, okay." So she's like, "I can get you some paracetamol if that helps." I was like, "Okay." Paracetamol. Paracetamol doesn't even get rid of a headache. Never
No,
mind contraction
right?
pain, but there we go. So she gave me the paracetamol, which did nothing, and left me another couple of hours. I didn't sleep at any time because the contractions were just getting more and more intense. I do think, because the hypnobirthing tools that I had learned definitely helped me manage that period, though, because I was completely on my own. The midwife was in and out because it was an overnight shift. There was nobody else on the ward, no other women on the ward. I was in a ward on my own.
Okay.
My husband wasn't allowed to be with me, and I was basically in labour without really knowing it. And I do credit the hypnobirthing tools for helping me manage through that period. And it carried on for a few hours, and at about 2 a.m., I think it was, the midwife came in and she was like, "Right, we need to put you back on the CTG just to keep an eye on baby." I'm like, "Right, okay, fine." So put me on the monitor, back on the bed. I think I was on it for about 40 minutes, and I had to buzzer in, and I was like, I can't stay in this position any longer. I'm really, really uncomfortable. The contractions are really coming more frequently, and I can't sit like this anymore. And she was like, "You do look a bit uncomfortable. Maybe should I just examine you and just see what's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, fine, whatever." So she examined me and she was like, "About 2 to 3 centimeters. So you've not really dilated much since this afternoon. So you probably are in the early stages, but it'll still be a long time." And I said to her, "Well, can I ring my husband then? Because this feels like this is going to happen soon." And she went, "Oh, I'll try and get you on labour ward in the morning, and then he'll be able to come down for that. But he can't come on this ward. There's no visitors overnight." I was like, "Right, okay." So come off the CTG, and I was walking around the room because I couldn't get comfortable anywhere. Kept sort of going to the bathroom, go to the toilets, trying to sit on the ball, just everywhere around the room, just trying to get comfortable. And in the end, the only place I found was comfortable was on the bed, on my hands and knees, holding onto the rail at the end. And this must have been about my hands and knees holding onto the rail at the end. And this must have been about 3:30-ish. I mean, looking into more about other women's experiences, particularly at the local hospital that I was at. And it turned out I found that it was quite a common theme for not being listened to and not being offered things and being pushed into certain processes and things. And it's Bradford Royal Infirmary. It's actually one of the hospitals that's under this current review for
Okay.
maternity care. Which now, when I say it, like, doesn't surprise me, because the whole experience there was really, really poor.
It's just shocking. There's so many things I want to say. I don't know if I should. It just, I just want to scream. Will you just listen to this mother? Like, she's telling you she feels like this baby's coming soon. She wants her husband there. It's her first baby. Why are you not listening to her and respecting what she wants? For God's sake.
No.
I can't believe they've done that. And just, so you've had your first baby without your partner there, all rushed, shocked, all by yourself. It's just horrendous.
Yeah, it was really, really poor. And then they rushed me down into the delivery suite for the stitches. I was allowed to stay in that room for 2 hours while my husband was there, and then they whisked me back out of it again because somebody else needed it. And I was like back up to the postnatal ward sort of within 2 hours. So no real time. And I didn't really have any golden hour with him. I didn't really have much time to bond with him because they kept taking him away. They wanted to check his blood sugars. They wanted him to keep him in the warm cot just to make sure he was okay. It was very. I didn't feel like I had that real opportunity to bond with him. And when I did get him handed to me, he was completely swaddled and wrapped, and there was no skin exposed for me to have any skin to skin. So, overall, it wasn't a great experience. And I do look at it and go, I'm glad that the birth was straightforward and uncomplicated, and it was fairly easy in terms of he came out quickly and easily. But that is such a small part of birth. And I think that's where it strikes me when people say things like, well, healthy mum, healthy baby, all that matters is baby arrived fine. And I got it a lot afterwards. When I was trying to explain my story, a lot of people kept saying to me, well, at least you were all right though. At least the baby was okay. And it really, really diminished and played down the actual experience that I'd been through and made me feel like I should just be grateful for the fact that I was in the hospital and they delivered my baby.
Yeah.
And it really made me feel like my experience didn't matter. And it really, that's what kind of pushed me into, it's so wrong that so many women feel like this. But at the time, I didn't feel strong enough to be able to go into the field and do it myself. I was still processing the trauma myself. And then when Oliver turned 1, we were talking and decided that we would like to have another baby. I really wanted Oliver to have a sibling. I've always, from the point when we discussed having children, it was always 2. It was always going to be 2. So, and sort of a year, 15 months later, I felt ready. So we were really fortunate. We fell pregnant the first cycle that we tried. And I was pregnant in January 2024 with Isabella. And the trauma was still quite raw, but I knew that I needed to do something in terms of protecting myself this time. So the first thing I did was refer to a different hospital because there was just no way I could go back to BRI. I can't go back there at all. I would never even go to their A&E anymore. It's just too triggering. So I registered with Calderdale in Halifax, which is a similar distance. I'm kind of in the middle, so it wasn't too much further. And I also, within sort of 2 weeks of finding out that I was pregnant, started looking into birth preparation with a doula. Because although the course that I did was good enough to give me knowledge and experience and understanding, that I managed the labour by myself with pretty much no pain relief and felt like I was strong enough to manage it, I felt so lost when I got the high risk label, and really felt that I would have benefited massively from having somebody to have those conversations with. So it was really high on my priority list that I got a doula for my second pregnancy. And when we did our budget for second baby, I took out a load of things that I had for my first and said, like, they're not necessary, and I'd rather put that money into hiring a doula. And I think that's kind of what I try to express through my social media and things now is Stop worrying about the things, the material things that you think you need for the baby. They don't need the fancy pram. They don't need the expensive toys. That money would so much be better spent on having someone to help you prepare for birth.
Yeah.
So I hired a local doula, and she was absolutely fantastic. And from the first day I met her, I just felt so much more relaxed and
Oh, good.
reassured that this was going to be a different experience. And we had several meetings with her throughout the pregnancy, and she went through everything and anything I wanted to talk about. She refreshed on key areas of hypnobirthing, went even deeper on some areas of things that I had no understanding of previously, like induction and what that process actually looks like all the different interventions that could happen, everything that you don't really get told. And she went through all of that, and it was really good.
Mm.
And then I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes again at week 10. So it was a long slog for this one. But with her support, I managed to put together my birth plan of contingencies of, I understand that things might change, but this is what I would like to happen.
Yeah.
And she really helped me kind of put that into perspective of, it's a preference rather than a set plan. And you understand that things might change, but actually knowing that ahead of time, you can be the one that makes those decisions rather than feeling forced. So that was really helpful. And then at 38 weeks, I went for a normal community midwife check, and my blood pressure was raised. And at first I was upset because I was like, oh God, it's going to happen again. It's all going to come back to me. But I went away and spoke to Julia about it and said, we talked it through, and she was like, look, you've been through this before, you know the process, and you know that actually high blood pressure is really, really dangerous, so it needs to be monitored. So let's sort of reframe it. And she really helped me to kind of process it from a more practical perspective. So that was on the Wednesday, and they kept me in MAC that day until about 8:30 p.m. when they managed to stabilise the blood pressure with the tablets, and then allowed me to go home and said, they really didn't want me to go home. They were really, really desperate to admit me, and I was so adamant this time that I was not being stuck in that cycle.
I've done this before.
Not doing that again. So they agreed to let me go home on the agreement that I would come back in the following morning, back into MAC, and just have another check just to make sure everything was okay. Fine, happy to do that. I'd rather get a good night's sleep in my own bed and feel more comfortable. So I did. So Wednesday night, went home, slept at home with my husband, and had a nice relaxed evening. My parents were over to help look after my little boy, so it was kind of all chilled. And got up the next morning, went into MAC, and they checked my blood pressure, and it was kind of elevated but not high, but they were still uncomfortable with it because I had taken the medication for 24 hours, so they were still a bit nervous about it. So then she started the induction conversation, and
this is 38 weeks.
38 weeks,
38,
yes,
yeah.
38. So what she said was that because the blood pressure was a concern, that they would continue to monitor it, but they would like to book in induction for 39 weeks as a precaution. And actually, in fairness, they were much better with me at Calderdale. It was much more understanding, and it was much more a conversation. But I do also believe that I had that prior preparation from having the doula by my side that meant that I was ready for whatever they were going to suggest to me this time. So she suggested we book it in for 39 weeks in a week's time. And then said to me, would you like me to do a sweep today? Because there's a chance, it might sort of move things along. So I was like, I don't know. I'm in two minds. So I was like, can I just have a few minutes? Can I have a bit of time? She's like, yeah, fine, go and sit. So I rang my doula and I talked it through with her. And I said, look, I know that it's a form of induction. I know that's the starting process of that. And I've said yes to the induction for next week. But part of me feels like I was early with Oliver. He came at 37. I'm 38. If it's going to happen now, maybe it's not so bad to have a sweep and just see where things are. So we talked it through, pros and cons, and in the end, I was like, right, I'm going to do it because I want to see where I'm up to at this point, and then see what the suggestion would be afterwards. So while it wasn't something that I was planning to do, after talking it through, I decided to accept it. And she did the sweep at about 2 p.m. And she said, "You're about 3 centimeters and the waters are bulging." So then it was that conversation of, "Oh, so when you come in for induction, it will just be a quick pop the waters and move on from there." And I was like, "I'm not coming in for induction. That is not happening." In my head, I'm thinking, I'm not going to do that. And I suppose subconsciously, I felt that maybe she was going to come before the 39 weeks anyway. So I think I agreed to the induction and the sweep because subconsciously, I think my body was saying it's going to happen anyway. So do it. Keep them happy. Don't worry about it. So I went home about 3 o'clock and actually ended up having Isabella that night at 9:30. And so what I did after I'd had the sweep and she told me that I was 3 centimeters, I literally went and did all the things that you advise people to do around keeping upright, keeping mobile, do the hip rotations, help get that baby into position and bring her down. I did my little boy's bedtime on the floor with him, so I was on my knees. So the whole time I was keeping myself in that position. And at 8 p.m, when my contractions started to really ramp up, and I knew that I was in labour at that point, so I said to my husband, "We need to get my parents here. We need to get someone to come look after Oliver." But at this point, I was still thinking I probably had a good couple of hours before she'd arrive. And the hospital, so I rang Mac and they said, "Yeah, it sounds like you are in sort of the early stages of labour. Take some paracetamol, try and rest, and if it's getting more intense, call us back in an hour." So this was like 8:10. And by 9:10, it was very clear that we weren't getting to the hospital. So my husband rang an ambulance, and I was on my hands and knees on the floor in front of the sofa. And he was very much thinking he was going to be delivering this baby. But having him sit with me with the doula and do some of the hypnobirthing course with me, he was exactly what you would want a birth partner to be. He was calm, collected. He kept everything, like he talked to the ambulance crew, and he was telling them, because they kept saying to him, "Tell her to lie on her back." And he was like, "With respect, she's not lying on her back. She's fine where she is." So he was very, very assertive for me, which was great. But he did say that when my doula arrived, the sense of relief that he felt when she was in the room, he was like, "Thank God for that.
I'm not on my own here."
And the paramedics arrived about 2 minutes after my doula. And as soon as she walked in, I knew that I was going to give birth there. I knew I wasn't going to get to hospital. But the sense of calm that she just brought into that room, and just that confidence that she gave me by my side, I just knew I can do this here. I don't need to go anywhere. I can do it right here. The ambulance crew were very insistent on, "We need to get to hospital. We need to get to the hospital." And Julia said, "Look, the head's almost out. There's no point trying to transfer her to the hospital now. We just do it here."
Can you imagine having to get up and get out of the house at that point? You've got a head coming out.
Exactly. I was like, I don't even know how you're going to move me. Like, literally, the baby's head is between my legs right now. Nothing's going to change that. So I did. So I gave birth to her at home. The paramedic delivered her, but they were really good. So I said to them, "Please don't cut the cord yet. I want my husband to cut it, and also I want to wait." And she was handed straight to me on my chest with a towel. It was a completely different experience. And while it was an unplanned home birth, I was secretly quite pleased that I'd kind of got that home birth experience, necessarily how I'd expected it to happen. But it definitely made a massive difference. And my husband said to me later on, like, he was like, "You were so calm and just like, you were talking to me the whole time, and you were giving me kind of feedback of what was happening, so I could tell the hospital, tell the ambulance crew." He said, "You're just so calm and like in control." And I was like, "Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. I was in control. I knew what was happening, and there wasn't anybody shouting at me or telling me what to do or ignoring my what I was saying." So yeah, so it
Amazing.
was a much better experience, and obviously we were then taken to hospital because I was struggling to birth the placenta, and I just needed a bit of help with that,
Yeah.
but probably just because of the shock of it happening so quickly. So yeah, it's a very different experience with Isabella, but
Wonderful.
it was that experience of having the doula that made that difference for me. And afterwards, when she came to see me for postpartum, I was talking to her and I said, "Look, I really feel now that I could be so helpful to people who have been through similar. I said, and you've inspired me because I've seen how the work you've done." So she gave me the details of who she trained with, and because of just to do the hypnobirthing to start with, and I was like, but long term, I would love to do the whole doula work, and that is still my plan in the future when the kids are older. But yeah, so she gave me the information, and it was from there that I went and trained.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so
Love it.
the two births were very, very different, and both play an equal part in the reason why I decided to go into
Yeah.
supporting women through the birth process. So
Yeah, of course.
my
When
stories.
when you have those kind of experiences, I hear so many women say, I now want to go and help women. I want, especially when they've had the two very different births, or they might have had a few births before, and then they have one that's just like a dream in comparison. And they always go, I need to go and help people. I need other women to know that this can happen, because I didn't know I could have this, and I did. So I need to go and spread the word. And I love that. And we need more doulas. So please do come and join our tribe, because we need
Definitely
we
will
need
be doing
more.
in the future.
Yeah, but with your skills with hypnobirthing as well, it would just be wonderful. Because what you could bring to a family with your doula training and the hypnobirthing experience, absolutely wonderful. Can I ask you some questions, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, go ahead.
So when you were at home and your husband was like, "I'm calling an ambulance," what do you know what was going through his head at that point? Had you spoken about calling an ambulance if this was to happen, or did he just panic and go, "Oh, this is I
Yeah,
don't know what to
so
do"?
when we talked afterwards, he did say that he was panicking, but he knew that wasn't going to help me. So he we hadn't talked about it at all. It had never been a thought that it would happen. So I said to him, "You need to ring an ambulance because they will at least talk you through kind of
Mm,
how to help me, and we need a paramedic here for if anything happens."
mm,
And I was saying that to him whilst I'm in labour, so like I was kind of really conscious of it.
yeah,
But no, we'd never had any conversation about it. He just knew that whatever was happening, he needed to stay calm because
yeah.
if he panicked, I would panic, and that would make things harder. But yeah, he said afterwards he was like inside, he was really like, oh my god, he thought he was gonna have to deliver her. He thought I'm gonna have to catch her.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And that's one of the things I talk to families about. When they say, "Oh yeah," Mum says, "Yeah, you can come and see me on Tuesday next week." I'm like, "Is your partner going to be there?" Because I want to do all our sessions together, because we're working as a team here, right? And it's part of what I do, and I know a lot of doulas obviously work this way, is helping that birth partner understand actually what happens through labour, and and the not so much the stages, but how it flows and things that can change it, things that can improve the experience for you, for
yeah,
everyone. So when Dad has that understanding, it does take away an element of panic. But I always think they have a little bit still going on, because look, they're men, they're the male of the species, and it's instinctual to be the protector. So
exactly. Yeah,
they're the best partner
yeah,
in the world, possibly, and they could be as calm as anything, but they will still have something inside them that says, "Whoa, my woman is in pain and I need to help.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
What
exactly.
can I
And
do?"
I think because he didn't get to experience me giving birth the first time, he'd never seen me in that position or
Yeah.
situation. And I think it must have been quite scary for him because he had no pre like concept of what that was going to look like, only
Mm,
from like theory. So I think it probably was quite frightening for him to see me obviously making a lot of noise and moving in a way that
yeah.
he's never seen before. And yeah, I think he did feel scared and worried, but at the time he didn't show any of that to me.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I couldn't have asked for
Great.
better. He was really good.
I'm so pleased that you, in your second pregnancy with Bella, decided, "I'm going to work with a doula," and that it sounds like you had an incredible doula on your journey. And I'm so
Fantastic.
pleased that
Yeah.
you did, because obviously you get good and bad and somewhere in the middle in every single profession. And I'm really
It
pleased
was,
that you
yeah.
had a wonderful doula. She obviously really knew how to support you and your partner, that's just a dream, isn't it? It's what you need.
Yeah, she was fantastic. From the first sort of introduction conversation we had with her on Zoom, she instantly put me at ease. And I felt calm, and she had like this really relaxed aura around her. And I just thought, yeah, you're the person I want next to me when I'm giving birth, and you're the one I want on the end of the phone when I'm struggling.
Yeah,
And she was absolutely brilliant. She was absolutely, yeah. I couldn't have asked for better. And I've recommended her to loads of people since, because I
good,
just think
wonderful.
everyone should have that. I think it's really sad that we're in a society where it's not something that's a given. It should be an option for everybody, not just
Yeah,
people who can afford it, because I think that it's a real shame
yeah,
um, that
definitely.
we can't offer. I know there's a lot of places that do charity ones, but I'm
Mm,
not sure how good a quality the charity training is.
yeah,
And I just think there should be so much more investment in. There should be NHS doulas that are fully trained, that everyone should have access to.
yeah.
Continuity of care is a
I
big thing,
agree.
isn't it?
There needs to be more of us. I wouldn't, if we were ever, if there was ever the opportunity for for there to be NHS doulas, I would never take part in that,
Yeah,
because I don't want to be part of that system. I don't want to do, I don't want to support a woman through birth the way you want her to do it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's,
No, I agree.
and I know in a lot of states in America, there are doulas that are linked to hospitals, um, and you just have to do what they expect the birth to be. You have to go along with that, with their policies, their guidelines, whatever. It's really tricky. If
Yeah,
you don't, they don't let you in the birth room, in some states. So it's ridiculous. It is really, really ridiculous. But I'm really glad that you had an amazing one. I really am. Um,
great.
can I ask, how did your partner feel about missing the birth?
He was gutted. He was really, really upset about it. Our first baby, and we'd talked about it so much, and he was really excited to
Yeah.
be there. So yeah, he was really upset. I mean, at the time, he was just very much relieved that everything was okay, and obviously in a bit of shock, because neither of us expected him to come that night. Um, in fact, that night he'd been putting stuff together for my baby shower that was supposed to be happening on the Saturday of that week. So yeah, we never ended up having that. But yeah, he was really upset about it, and I think it made a massive difference to how we approached the second birth. In that we were very much agreed that whatever the hospital was saying, he would turn up. If I rang him, he would be there. And he said, even if I have to stand outside those maternity doors until someone lets me in, I'll be there. I'm not going to miss it.
Mm.
And I guess in hindsight, I probably should have just phoned him when, you kind of just go along with being told you
Yeah.
can't do this. But in hindsight, who is she to say I couldn't phone him? And he could have just come and stood outside them doors. And
I
then
just
at the
don't
point when they
understand.
realised actually you are having this baby, then yeah, let him in. But what bothered me the most about it was the ward that I was on that night was there was nobody else on it. So it wouldn't have been any harm to anybody to let him be
Yeah,
there with me that night.
but you were
Um,
in labour. They'd already said that you were in labour, early labour, yes,
Early labour,
but
yeah.
you were in labour. And what I can't get my head around is, I've never had that experience where a woman is on an induction ward and suddenly she's like, okay, I'm now in labour, and they've said your doula can't come in. Well, we do go in
Yeah.
because that's what we're hired for. We're there to be there through the labour
Yeah.
and the birth. Right. Thank you for sharing those stories. They're amazing, and I really do appreciate you sharing that with anyone that watches this back. You've explained how you ended up in your line of work, what you're doing now. So can you just give us a little bit of information on how you support families now, so that if anyone watches, well, hopefully people watch this back, if they're thinking, well, actually, Emma sounds like someone that we'd really like on our birth team, hypnobirthing, or in some way we'd like her to be involved in our pregnancy, let
Yeah.
them know how they can get in contact with you and how you might be able to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got my social media, and I've got a website, olibellahypnobirthing.com. And on both pages, you can send me a message for a conversation. All my relationships start with a no obligation, completely free conversation, because I think it's really important that you find the right person. I mentioned before
Mm.
how Julia made me feel, and I think that's really important. And not everyone's going to be right for everybody, so definitely have a chat and a conversation first. And then I offer a variety of different options through my packages. So my ultimate package is a 10-hour one-to-one course, which covers every aspect of hypnobirthing, from the physiology of birth through to positions for labour and birth partner support, the whole package over 10 hours. But I also do offer tailored packages. And to be honest, the tailored packages do seem to be the most popular that I'm doing at the moment, because I think people are able to get information online, but then they want to specifically talk about certain things.
Yeah.
So all of my courses are I can tailor to the individual, and I can do any level of sort of timings that suits you. I really want it to be bespoke for the individual and their family. So as I said, just at the beginning of January, I did a 4-hour intensive course with a couple. So it can be anything from a 4-hour to a 6-hour to a 10-hour in-depth course. I do in person locally, so I'm based in West Yorkshire, in Bradford, and I cover the West Yorkshire area in person. But I am also available for other people further afield online. I do prefer an in-person chat. Obviously, it's better that you've got that that one-to-one, face-to-face. But if I can offer help and support in any way, then I'm going to do it. So there is an option to do an online version with me, and as well as that, if you're not, if it's not something you want to do full on course, I share a lot of extra resources through my social media. I've got downloads that are available that are just free to download, because I just think that this information should be accessible to everybody. And it might just be as simple as understanding a bit more about how the body works, that can just be that difference between feeling calm and feeling panicked. So just, like I say, conversation, drop me a message, we can have chats. I've had quite a lot of Facebook conversations in the last year, where it's been focused on just giving people reassurance and even just answering a few questions, which I'm happy to do on an ad hoc basis. But I do think the best value comes from spending that time and really understanding the full process. I'm just enjoy being that person that can help those families have a better experience of the whole experience of managing pregnancy, maternity system, and then having the positive birth that they deserve, that everyone deserves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Emma. I really enjoyed listening to your stories and having this chat.
Thank you for having me. It's been really lovely to talk with you as well.
Yeah, and hopefully people will watch this and watch it back, listen to the story, and they might take something from it, hopefully. I'm sure they will.